Hello kids, this is Mr. Whistler with your video lesson of the day, and today we're going to be talking about Valley Forge. We have one vocab word today and it's desert. To leave without permission. 8th grade, when you're in the military and you leave on your own, you desert. We caught these guys deserting. I just want to go home. Patriot forces endured a winter of terrible suffering at Valley Forge, and many soldiers deserted. French-American alliance. Victory at Saratoga in October of 1777 boosted American spirits and marked a turning point in the war. So it was time to gain foreign support and try to get other countries to help us. Ben Franklin had been in France for the last year trying to do just that. Can you help us, Your Majesty? No, but I can give you some money in secret, my friend. So France did not want to help America because they weren't sure if they could win. And in wars, the losers lose stuff, so France didn't want to be involved if we couldn't win because they had already lost a lot of stuff from the French and Indian War. France had been giving America money secretly, though. So news of the American victory at Saratoga caused a shift in France's policy. France and America worked out an alliance, or a friendship of helping. And these were the causes of that alliance. There was a long-standing hostility between Britain and France. They didn't like each other, and they hadn't liked each other for hundreds of years. An example is the conflict between Britain and France during the French and Indian War. And after the victory of Saratoga, the French confidence in the Patriot increased, and they thought that the Americans might be able to win. So in 1778, France declared war on Britain. Now Britain was fighting the Americans, and Britain was fighting France. So when France joined us, the first thing they gave us was money. They also gave us soldiers. And they gave us ships, which we needed desperately. So, France was the Americans' most important ally during the American Revolution. Spain also helped us. Other European nations also helped the Americans. Not so much because they liked the Americans, but because they hated Britain. So in 1779, Spain declared war on Britain. Now Britain was fighting the Americans, the French, and the Spanish. Now Spain didn't help quite as much as the French. The French were our greatest ally during the war, but they did help us a little bit. They sent us some money, and they also sent some troops, but they didn't send as many troops as the French, and they sent just enough to kind of be a distraction. Spanish troops in the south caused the British to use troops against them that they would normally use against the Americans. So it did help us a little bit. They took some of the troops away from the fight against the Americans. So, Valley Forge. In the winter of 1778, if you remember, General Howe got stuck in Philadelphia for the winter. And since he was the overall commander, most of the British troops were with him. And so they got to spend the winter in comfort in nice buildings with fireplaces and blankets and beds in Philadelphia for the winter. On the other hand, the Americans got to sleep out in the snow. They got to spend the winter 20 miles away in a camp at Valley Forge. Now, when they got there, none of these cabins were there. They built them themselves. and they were smoky on the inside. They didn't have good ventilation. They were cold. The Patriots really endured a winter of terrible suffering. It was horrible for them. So they lacked food, clothing, shelter, and they really had a tough time. Washington's greatest challenge was keeping the army together. Many people deserted. Sir, more men have deserted. Find them and bring them back. Well, the troops built huts. They gathered supplies from the countryside. And then they did everything they could to survive. One soldier that was there, his name was Albigans Waldo, wrote in his diary, and he wrote this: I am sick, discontented, out of humor, poor food, hard lodging, cold weather, fatigue, nasty clothes, and nasty cookery. Well, you can see that he wasn't having a very good time. So, the historical event that this quote is talking about is Valley Forge. So the cause of the conditions at Valley Forge were a lack of Patriot resources and money. Women helped as well. George Washington's wife Martha helped make clothes and care for the sick. And she wasn't the only woman. A lot of women helped out as well. So women did their part in the war too.
Let me help you, young man. I'm Mrs. Washington. You know, George's wife.
So somehow the army survived the winter. So there was one good thing that came out of Valley Forge, and that was the Continental Army ceased to be militia and they became a real army. There was a former German officer by the name of Frederick von Steuben. And he actually was a really good officer and he knew how to train men. So von Steuben drilled and trained the troops at Valley Forge all summer long. Now, if you think about this, they had a really hard time there. They were cold, they were hungry, but they trained all winter long. And if you think about in modern times, like the Navy SEALs or the Green Beret, is their training easy? And I think most of you will agree that it's not. In fact, one of the kids today told me that 90% of the people that try to become a Navy SEAL fail because the training's so hard. Well, these were harsh conditions for the troops, and von Steuben was a very good officer, and he trained them, and he actually turned them in to a regular army. So all the training and hardships turned them into a real army, and they began to have confidence and they began to believe in themselves. After Valley Forge, the Americans were able to fight with the British out in the open where they were strong, because they were no longer militia and they were a real army.